Once or twice a year, I believe near the equator, due to the position of the sun, people kind of lose their shadows briefly. However, on one particular occasion, a man in Pune, India loses his shadow, but it never returns. Everyone else's shadow comes back, as per usual, but his is conspicuously absent. This is viewed by people as a miracle of sorts. Then it starts to happen to a few other people, and as reports come in, people start getting excited about the phenomena. Indeed, some people are even envious, wishing they could be part of this. Until it is soon discovered that everyone whose shadow disappears are starting to lose their memories. It starts with a man not being able to recognize his two brothers, whom he had known all his life. Soon, elation turns to worry turns to panic, and the world eventually devolves into a global collapse of society as we know it. The phenomenon spreads like a pandemic. And this is where the story begins. There is no rhyme or reason as to who loses their shadow, not race, not gender, not age, not health status. And the memory loss is progressive, and eventually ends up with people not being able to remember things like fire is hot, that you must eat, or even how to breathe. But at the same time, they develop the ability to manifest misremembered items or facts. What I mean by this, and to illustrate, our two main characters, Ori and Max, are living in an abandoned hotel. One day, Ori is walking in the woods, scavenging, and he sees a deer with large antlers. Only they're not antlers at all. They're wings on its head. Ori realizes someone has forgotten what a deer looks like, and is magically manifesting this false memory of a deer with wings on its head. This book very much starts off in the realm of magical realism, in a world that we would recognize as our own, although in the middle stages of a post-apocalyptic decline. It's enchanting without being too otherworldly, and the characters, including supporting characters, are all rich and stand out. They're very different from one another. But since this spreading phenomenon and affliction of memory loss and manifesting false memories is spreading throughout the planet, you can see how magical realism gives way to the end of the novel, where it's just pure fantasy, sort of a genre bait and switch. This is author Peng Sheperd's first novel, and it's a tour de force. She makes bold choices, introduces provocative plot twists and reveals, and creates a world unconcerned with our need for realistic elements. The characters are all in a race against time to traverse the landscape of a fallen America, making their way to the city of New Orleans, which is believed to be a haven and the only possible place that a cure might be found. This is explained with rumors and second-hand accounts from some of the characters. As their memories progressively get taken away from them, the journey to New Orleans becomes more difficult, and due to the unruly subcultures and remnants of society that they meet along the way, the journey becomes somewhat perilous. So the author gives us a lot of action and a lot of things to pay attention to, but this is not a book without its issues. Despite being a race against time, this book is 500 pages long, and the second act feels almost as if it's spinning its wheels in certain parts. There are two big reveals and a final plot twist that are over the top, completely over the top. The two big reveals were actually predictable if you pay attention to the clues, so the emotional impact wasn't as profound as I would have liked. And the big plot twist at the end might as well have been a Matrix moment for me. I actually did not see it coming. I laughed out loud when I actually read it. It was audacious and just insane. Bold, but ultimately unsatisfactory. I felt that the big reveals and plot twists could have been replaced instead by more character development. There are really large events that are spoken of after the fact, and they feel like pure exposition to me. I would have liked to have seen much more about some of the characters, actually. This book is in 3 acts. The strongest act is the first, and the third act is the second strongest. It shifts any magical realism elements into full-on fantasy, and the second act is your weakest act. It feels almost superfluous in parts. Like I said, it feels kind of like you're spinning the wheels. It also feels like it's the longest act, but that may just be because you kind of slog through portions of it. If it weren't for the fact that I really liked the characters and I was invested in the characters, it would have made it more painful to read. Remember, this is 500 pages long. Overall, though, this was an entertaining read and a remarkable work for someone whose novel here is their very first novel. Certain themes, like the fact that we are more than our memories, and the theme of dealing with loss, are sometimes profoundly depicted, but at other times forgotten for a few pages to incorporate all of these sequences in the novel. I would have loved to have seen a novel focusing on just Rory and Max, honestly. I think the emotional impact at the end would have been more profound. Ultimately, all the characters go through so much that they can't possibly be the same people as they were at the beginning of the novel, memory loss or not. And the fact that she gives each character its own color, each character has its own personality, really makes the book much more enjoyable. I will definitely need to read more by Peng Sheperd. Alright, so for the final review, I'm going to give readability here an almost, actually I'm going to give it a full moon, because it was very easy to read, and it was really, really enchanting in the beginning. I mean, Peng really hooks you in. That first act is probably one of the strongest first acts that I've read in a book in a long time. As far as pacing goes, I can't say the same, because it was really kind of, I don't want to call it a slog, even though I did earlier, but it was slower than it needed to be. There were elements that I felt didn't need to be in there, and at times I was wondering where it was going. It does pay off in the end, in the sense that she doesn't just let the book kind of languish. She does come in with a really strong third act. It's a third act that's attempts to be unpredictable for the most part, but it does help with the pacing to some extent, just not enough for it to have not felt a little bit awkward in the middle. As far as interest goes, I'm going to give it just a little over half of a moon. The fantasy elements were really over the top, and I am not a fan of the fantasy genre, so it may just reveal my prejudice. It was a well-written book. It's just that it starts off feeling like one type of book and goes in a completely different direction, which is a bold move. It just didn't quite execute the way that I thought would have been more impressive, I guess. I don't know. For a freshman book, it's really awesome, though. And this is why, for overall, I'm going to give it about a little over a half a moon, so about 70%. Would I recommend this book? Hell yeah, I'd recommend this book. It was entertaining. For 500 pages, I stuck with it. At the end of it, like I said, I kind of hoot and hollered with that last reveal. Some people might not have found it surprising. I did. I wouldn't say that I cared for that reveal, because like I said, I would have really preferred more character development than just kind of subverting my expectations, so to speak. Overall, I do recommend reading it, though. Alright, for those of you who enjoy the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It would help me out a great deal. And as always, thank you so much, guys.